I'm doing the shit, mama. I'm doing the shit, big. I just caught the new verse. A little over $250,000. He called me like 260. I eat with the 5 stars. That perk got a nigga high. Right now I'm a fly star. You can get popped with the toy.
What is up, y'all? It is Grant from the Problematic Posse, and it's also Kris from Problematic Posse, and we are here today to give you a review of the prestigious, the long-awaited, the Batman.
The Batman.
The Batman. Riddle me this, man.
Riddle me this, bang.
So,
man,
going into the Batman, I can't even lie. I already had high hopes for a movie, and it truly did blow me away. The big thing about this movie, I can say, in comparison to the comic book standpoint and in comparison to the other Batman movies, it's like they truly nailed number one, they truly nailed the whole detective thing and putting the emphasis on the detective work in the movie. I liked how there was fighting in the movie. Because of course it's Batman, but I loved more that it was much more centered around detective work and Bruce having to figure things out. Second thing, which stands out to me the most, is that I love how Gotham City truly feels alive in this movie. Like, it feels like throughout the whole movie, we actually see, like, they make an emphasis. Like, you never forget, they make an emphasis to let you know, hey, Gotham is just not a city. It's a corrupt entity. Everybody wild and everybody tripping. So, and you really see like how Bruce in the beginning of the movie, he's like, I don't know if this is worth fighting for. I'm gonna find out. So, like, you see that throughout the movie, and they make sure to put an emphasis on that. Mm-hmm. Just a phenomenal body of work from beginning to end. I will say it dragged. Like, if there's one thing I could say about the movie, I would say you can chop it down just like a little, like a couple minutes, like maybe 10, 15, here and there. Other than that, I just really enjoyed it. What about you, Kris?
Yeah, I'm kind of the exact same as you, as far as, like, I went into it with high expectations, and not even just like high expectations. I don't want to sound like I'm biased, but I kind of already liked it, like in a bad, maybe an unfair way.
Like, you already knew. I was like, hey, this Robert Pattinson, this Matt Reeves, he rarely miss. Right. You talking about the source material they gonna pull from. Like, we kind of knew. We knew that it was a very slim chance that we were gonna be disappointed with that combination.
Right, and it's one of those things, like, I wish I wasn't as online for movies as I was. I wouldn't have known so much, like, knowing a lot of stuff that influenced it. It was cool to know, but like I said, like, it combined a bunch of stuff that I just know I like, and I trusted in Matt Reeves' hands, and I trusted that Robert Pattinson was going to play it, even from, like, that first teaser. And I know a lot of people who saw it in the early screenings, like, that first teaser trailer we got at Fandom in 2020, they're like, that is maybe one of the truest times that a teaser has been completely indicative of what a movie is going to be like. So when people are saying, yeah, that first teaser we got, the one that everyone says is the best thing in the world, like, the movie is just that, like, that captures the tone and the scope and everything perfectly. I was just like, then I hate that I'm biased, because if it's going to be 3 hours of this is going to be the best movie I've ever seen. And of course, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but it captured the tone and it stuck with the things I was really excited to see. And I did honestly like it. Like, it's 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. Like, it was great to me. I agree with you that it drug, like, a little bit. Like, maybe I won't say it drug, and I don't think the pacing was bad, because it wasn't, but I could feel the 3 hours. Like, I don't know if there's a specific 15-minute chunk that I'm like, oh, I can cut this whole section out. I don't think it's that, but over the course of it, there were, like, little moments. Toward, like, the second half, I could feel oh yeah,
you can definitely feel that it's a 3 hour movie. I I enjoy
Yeah, I still
all
enjoy. I can just
3 hours.
feel it. Right.
I can enjoy it, but I can tell like, hey, this is long, like this is a pretty long movie.
Yeah, like
But
it set on me a couple of times.
it was great. I was enjoying pretty much every minute of it. So I don't really have an issue with that. One thing, some scenes that I wanted to point out, not necessarily this scene, but definitely the first 20 minutes of the movie set the tone for the entire movie. In terms of the scene where Bruce is giving his monologue, I am the shadows, and all that stuff. From when we first see the Riddler, that really that I can't even lie. This like it was great, but it spooked me at the same time because it's not really like with those type of scenes when somebody appearing by somebody. It wasn't like super. It was like you knew he was there, but it wasn't just like super plain born. It wasn't like super plain obvious. Like you can kind of see the glare off his glasses, and you can see like it was pretty faint. And I love what they did with that shot. Another scene that I liked, I really loved the scenes where Batman wasn't in a costume. I love the scenes where we just got Bruce talking with Alfred, Bruce kind of just being over like at the desk, talking about like trying to figure out everything. I love I will say this, 100% I feel him. I love the Riddler in this movie so much because it was like he wasn't like the super serious, dude because of course he telling riddles. But second thing, it's like he was like, I don't want to say funny, but at the same time, his reactions and his animations and everything like that, it was perfect.
It still like captured that essence of the Riddler. Like it did play him pretty scary and straightforward and serious. And like I know what you're getting at. Like he wasn't necessarily like comedic. Like he wasn't funny in the sense that the Jim Carrey Riddler was. Like he wasn't like over the top, silly, almost playing a different character level funny. He had these like moments where he was still humorous to like his riddles, and he seemed like also just some guy. You know, like he still found a way to be light and bring that essence of the character where he's not just like the super evil, serious, you know, Bane in Dark Knight Rises type of like serious and straightforward villain, right? Like, and that's what I kind of got worried about, like as it was going on, and we just got him in the mask, and of course, like they wanted to build him up and get that fear was also like I think a theme in this movie, something they wanted to do. It wanted to get you kind of nervous and afraid of him. So early on, they did have him this like super Zodiac killer, silent monster type, and I was like, man, I hope we get some kind of goofy aspect to him, like not like, and again, not to bring anything, not like MCU level comedy. Like I don't want him to like finally reveal his mask and he starts like cackling and quipping. Like I want to like get a sense of lightness to him that you're like, oh yeah, this is
like this is 100% his character.
Yeah,
like,
this is still the Riddler. Like they're not like calling him the Riddler for the sake of him giving Batman, you know, hard detective work, but making him you know what I mean? Like it's not like they called him the Riddler for the sake of the story, but treated him like he was Hush, or treated him like he was like another of these super serious characters. Like they called him the Riddler, they set him up, and then they're like, but he's also to the real. Like here's him doing riddles and being silly and making these jokes, but it wasn't in a way that took you out of the tone of the movie. I thought they nailed that perfectly because I really thought that we weren't going to get that, but at the same time, like, but don't go too far with it. Keep the tone of the movie, but make him a little wacky. I think that's what they did. They made him wacky more than they did make him silly. Is I think maybe the way I would describe
that's
it.
what I really like. Like this dude going around killing people, and to top it all off, he blew the seawalls to Gotham. So yes, of course, I want this dude to be like, kind of like, let me know, like he kind of like he crazy, like yeah, he telling riddles, but he a mastermind,
right?
And at the same time, he just wacky. One thing I want to point out about the movie, that I love so much is the attention to detail. One thing is that when Batman says he's in year 2, and he's talking about all the stuff that he's gone through, or he's experienced as Batman, and how it's tiring, like in terms of fatigue on his body, and also you see his inexperience in some areas throughout the entire movie. It's not super in your face, but you understand it. Like for instance, one part was when I believe he was gliding, and then he just followed just straight up, just crashed out.
Yeah, and he threw out the parachute trying to go under the bridge and got caught in the air. Like that seemed like something like, oh, this is his first time trying one of these escapes and throwing out this parachute, and he probably didn't know. You can't go in a tunnel and throw out a parachute, especially it's going to catch the egg. Like that was nice to see, to see his first time doing some of that stuff. Yeah.
Like, come on, Bruce. And then the second thing was I loved how I love how in the fights, Bruce ain't just straight up. He's beating these people. But they make it clear that he's not untouchable. Like he's still getting hit.
He's not doing no damage runs.
Yeah, it ain't like Arkham City Bruce where you just countering every single thing. Like we make sure that he gets touched and he gets hurt sometimes. So that's one thing I loved as well. So that whole inexperienced thing in some areas, they make it known. They make a constant effort in the movie to let you know, hey, Bruce is still like, he's still that dude, but he ain't that dude yet. Like he got more to go. And then final thing I want to say is that in adding on to this point, the Batmobile, I love the way how the Batmobile looked, because it's not some super high-tech thing yet. Like, granted, it's still like, of course, like it's still a Batmobile, but you think of year 2, it's like, okay, this Batmobile kind of look like it ain't all the way fleshed out that he wanted to be, but he getting there. So it's just like making sure we point out where Batman is in his hero journey. They made that completely evident throughout the whole movie, which I love. And of course, not figuring out the riddle until the very end. What's a rat with wings? As a person in the theater, of course, I'm gonna be like, you be for real, Bruce. Like, now come on. Like, hello. I'm just like, seriously, like we all see that. They make a constant effort in letting us know that Bruce is in year 2, which I love. So like just the overall attention to detail is what puts this film, personally, it makes me put it as the best Batman film. Because granted, we didn't see much of Bruce in this film, but I feel like that will come with time. But two things that really stand out to me is that they truly nailed the details on Gotham, and they truly nailed the details about just where Bruce is in his career, along with, of course, a fantastic plot. So I had no problem just putting it as a number 1 on my list.
Yeah, no, it's weird because like if I sit here and I think about it, I might say that as like a film overall, I maybe can't put it over The Dark Knight just yet. I'm not one who has The Dark Knight as like holy grail that's just untouchable. I think there's still a couple like aspects with that, the performance that everyone holds on too tightly to, like to make it seem like it's untouchable, to keep the performance. Like at the end of the day, that is a part of the movie. So like it's hard to just shake them. Like, well, if you take that away, it's even better. Like,
which I understand. Like, I feel like the film heads are gonna be like, okay, The Dark Knight is definitely better than this. But at the same time, I feel like the comic book fans, the Batman fans, they're gonna put this as number one.
See, as a person who's like looking at it from both, I have it tied. I think I maybe need to see it again. I do think like the longevity of the Dark Knight, I haven't seen it so many times. Like there's just like so much stuff that you capture and you just have a harder time putting it above it. Here's the thing. It's gonna sound crazy. I don't want to definitively say that the Batman is better than the Dark Knight, but I am not going to sit here and say the Dark Knight is better than the Batman because I just don't think it is. Like at best, they're tied for me. Like I said, I think I just need a little bit more time to cook on. I'm only 24 hours off, but I think like some more time and thinking on. I'm like, yeah, it definitely is a definitive Batman movie, right? Like it is the Batman movie. When people ask me like, oh, what's a good movie to learn about Batman? I'm like, this is the one right here. But yes, if I'm looking at it from a film,
if you are trying to capture the pure, if you're talking about capturing, if the goal is to capture the pure universe of Gotham City, I feel like you gotta like. I feel like it gets that hands down.
Gotham is a character, right?
I understand balancing between like debating between the Dark Knight and the Batman. I'm just saying, me personally.
No, I feel you know.
But I see what y'all saying. Like I don't think it's just like in terms of like the acting and stuff. I don't think it's just like a super cut and dry. Oh, it's no debate type of thing.
Yeah.
Like the acting, like I can see people saying, "Hey, the acting performances in The Dark Knight are better than the acting performances in the Batman."
See, and I'll be honest, if we're using performances as a whole, I don't think so. Like Aaron Eckhart is good as Harvey Dent, and Christian Bale is good, and God, why am I blinking? Like Jim Gordon, why am I blinking on his name? I'm supposed to be a film head. I'm just having like a moment, but like I wouldn't say performances overall in The Dark Knight are better because it's just the one. The Batman is casted and it's performed very, very well. Everyone in the Batman is doing a fantastic job. Like I said, I don't like doing this, but if you take away the Heath Ledger performance of The Dark Knight and say, okay, which one had better performances? It's the Batman, like hands down, no contest. Like if we're talking about like overall what was acted better, I would personally say the Batman. It's just one of them has somebody who won an Oscar for it. So like it's hard to be like, nah, they was acting in the Batman. But like that's what it's tricky for me. I can't put one over the other yet, but I also can't say one is better than the other. Because I'm like, both of these are just so good. I can't decide, but I want to put the Batman, but I have to make sure it's not just recency. But the Batman is phenomenal.
I will say this: they 100% nailed the casting for the Batman. I feel like especially I can't remember his name. I'm sorry. But who plays Jim Gordon? I loved how
perfect, man.
I love his progression through the entire film.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, hey, GCPD ain't who you think they are. they not them. Like they're not them. So his progression through the entire film is one thing that I love. I think it'll fly under the radar because of how amazing the performances by some of the other people were. But it's something I definitely don't want to forget. Just overall, I truly believe this is the Batman film.
Yeah, this is the definitive Batman.
If you are a comic book fan, I feel like this is number one. If you a film head, I understand if you're debating between. I understand if you be debating between the two, but just as a comic book fan, this is number one. Like it's number one.
Yeah, no, it's like it's tough because I can't. There's only one thing that I can think of in this film that I didn't like, and I guess we can go ahead and talk about it. It's the Joker scene. I don't even know if I don't hate it, and I don't dislike it as much as everyone else. I don't think it should have been in the film. So in the test screenings, it tested in the film. There are testings without it all together, and there are testing where it was the end credit scene. And I think it would have worked better as the end credit scene, or honestly not being in at all. Well, I want to say not at all because Matt Reeves' vision is his vision. I think it would have been better as an end credit scene because it feels so out of place in the movie. Like to have the 2 hours and 30 minutes of the movie we had, and then to have this, and then to go back to the last 10, 15 minutes being the tone that we're used to, it felt so like out of place, you know what I mean? And it felt weird. Like it felt like it was taking place in a different cinematic universe. Like, it just felt too silly. And I wish it would have stayed the end credit scene as opposed to being in the actual film.
I understand what you're saying. And when you say the other universe, I almost want to say it felt like it was happening in the movie Joker to an extent. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't personally, just as a comic book fan, I have extreme Joker fatigue in itself for various reasons. I will not say the Joker in 2019, 3 Jokers, and it's just kind of like it's a villain that's just been in our faces in terms of just comics in general for a good bit. And I just wanted to give it a break, but also give a shine to the other roles that Batman has. So that's why I'm not really super hot on it. If it's gonna be, I know Matt Reeves did say, hey, I don't plan to do this for the next film, which I understand. And I'm glad he kind of cleared that up. But just like, I'm just very on it. It's just like, I honestly could have just, if that was an end credit scene, I would have much rather liked it instead of being like we said, part of the film.
Like it makes it feel so disjointed in the actual movie. Like you have 2 hours and 30 minutes of that tone, and then you get the tone of that scene, and it feels so out of place, you know. But I can imagine what probably came down to it. It was like, we've already made you sit here for 2 hours, almost 3 hours. We don't want you to sit here for another another like 7 minutes for credits just to get this scene. So I feel like they probably like put it in there because the movie is long enough. We're not going to ask audiences to stay for too long and get that. So it's like, that could be what it came down to. I said, let's just put in the action movie to, you know, people have been sitting down for long enough. Let's get this in the movie, get it over with, let people leave. But I'm with you, like, put it at the end credit scene, I'd be fine. I would wait the extra 7 minutes to not, because the film isn't tarnished, but I'm always going to think about that. When I'm watching it and I feel that scene coming, I'm going to be like, oh man, I'm going to watch a different movie for 2 minutes.
This movie is perfect, but it could be
only, like,
more perfect.
Thing to me. If that, like, I'm calling it a 5 out of 5 and 10 out of 10 anyway, but that's like the only thing close to like a blemish or something that I didn't like in this movie. Everything else, exactly what I wanted, perfect, couldn't have been done better. I mean, it's shot really well. Greg Fraser is the truth. The way they use stagecraft, like, I know people now are trying to point out like, oh, they didn't do some of this stuff practical, or like, it looked good. I don't care. Like, you didn't know until you saw the picture of them using stagecraft. Like, the movie just looks great. The score is incredible. It's, like I said, I feel how long it is, but at the same time, it's paced so well that it doesn't, like, you know what I mean? It doesn't bore me, right? Like, you don't get bogged down and bored. You're like, oh, it's 3 hours. You just kind of feel, oh man, this is 3 hours at certain parts. And it's paced well. Like, it's a slow burn type of movie, so I think you're always going to feel the length of it. But yeah, everything about this movie, like all the technical stuff, all the casting, all that kind of stuff came together to just give us a perfect Batman movie, the best Batman movie. I can't see myself anytime soon ranking this any lower than top 3 or 5 at the worst comic book movies of all time. Like, this is just great for me.
It's like, in your words, it's Timothy. It's Timothy. It's Timothy. One thing I will say,
will always be famous.
One thing I will say in regards to what I want to see in the next movie, I really think they're gonna end up. It's kind of a hint. I can't 100% confirm it because I don't know if they're gonna go that route entirely, but I think they're gonna do the No Man's Land. I think, because when you think about, they were like, oh, Gotham is flooded, the National Guard came in. I was like, oh, okay, they might end up doing that. And I feel like it'll be a perfect time to introduce Mr. Freeze with all that water, Gotham basically being flooded, and things like that. One thing I do want to say though is that in regards to people wanting the Robin in the next movie and down the line, I'm not necessarily opposed to it, I just feel like they're going to have to get it right.
Yeah.
Like you can't. First of all, you can't just do one thing for sure. Damian is out of the question.
Yeah,
like
Damian is no way to do that right now.
There's just no way they're not gonna do that. I'm thinking it's gonna be. I feel like with the tone of these movies, I think Tim Drake would be pretty good because he's the best detective out of the Robins. I'm not sure about Dick Grayson because his whole, unless we're just straight up skipping unless for somebody just straight up skipping his origin or something like that. So I'm not sure about Dick Grayson either. Jason Todd, maybe,
yeah. But I think if Jason Todd is a good character on his own, but I think with how people react to him, what he's done with now, I feel like using Jason Todd is only to set up what comes next with Jason Todd. Not to say like on his own as a Robin,
exactly,
because he's a strong character. I think you can still use, but I mean, we've seen the way that he's kind of been used in the zeitgeist, what people think about when they first think of him. So like using him is essentially just working towards red hooding him essentially. And you have Joker fatigue. I kind of have a bit of like Red Hood fatigue. I think our fatigue from the characters came from the same exact thing. That one thing made me like, leave him alone for a while. I can't watch him. Don't do this.
I understand because it's like with Jason Todd, like you were saying, we all
people just want one thing. Like
people want to see him kill people, and people want guns. Yeah, people don't care. People, I'm not gonna say people don't care about Jason's character in itself, but it's the whole guns and the whole guns thing is gonna overshadow what we want, which I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, though, that's where I think Tim Drake or Dick Grayson would just be a much better fit in terms of. And this honestly just that's honestly what I prefer. I really just don't want. I don't want Jason. Definitely don't want Damian either. But overall, in terms of storylines that I want to see down the line, I feel like Court of Owls is a movie 3 or movie 4 type of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely not the next one. It has because it'd be hard to do that as the next one because like even though the Riddler said there are even bigger forces that play in Gotham, like Batman hasn't got a handle of the forces that are now about to come play, right? Like Cobblepot is about to take over Falcone stuff. You still got some of the corruption in the GCPD, like so you haven't even had him get an understanding or a handle on what happens next with those things. So like it'd be hard to skip over that and then go to an even bigger threat and then come back down, which Batman movies and Batman comics, not movies, I guess the comics and stuff do, but the way that movies work in a bit more linear kind of thing, it'd be better to, like you said, maybe do Court of Owls in like the third or the fourth and build up to that more. Because doing it in the second one, giving him that gigantic, super looming, super structured, dangerous force, and then come back down until Cobblepot has a couple of CBS employees that beat people up on the weekends. Like it's too big of like a pull back in the third movie. Like he just fought the Court of Owls, now go beat up on
with the power vacuum in Gotham right now.
Yeah, let's handle that first. Yeah, I'm with you.
It's just not really smart to do a Court of Owls type of thing.
Just yet.
And it's really something that like you could bring in like who I want Mr. Freeze for sure. And I want Croc in there too. I feel like that would be perfect given the flooding and the power grab. Maybe people were saying Poison Ivy, and I mean like, I'm not against it at all. Of course, Kyle. So yes, Mr. Freeze, Croc, Poison Ivy, and Penguin. I think that's a pretty solid 4 to go out of. And then the third film, even though it's kind of far ahead, maybe some Arkham Asylum stuff. Maybe
like maybe some Arkham Asylum, maybe some. I know those stories aren't like in the terms of like how a movie would go, there'd probably be some splitting up you have to do. But I think like a bit of Arkham Asylum with some Court of Owl type stuff, for the third one. Like one certainly can hold a bigger presence than the other. But like I think for 3 and 4, like working towards those type of things is good. I know Matt Reeves said he's very interested in doing some stuff with Mr. Freeze for the next one. He's like, he likes a challenge of taking characters like that and grounding them. He's like, and there is an interesting way that you can probably do that and not make it super boring. So I do think he's probably thinking of Mr. Freeze heavy right now. Killer Croc, man, it's not like I don't think it will work. Like this universe just seems so grounded. And of course, like I don't have the same creative mind as Matt Reeves. I positive that he could figure it out, but I'm just like, that almost feels like a leap, right? Because Killer Croc is one of those things like once you venture into that territory, you just kind of open up to all the other weird, and Matt Reeves doesn't want to do that. So like, I'm not saying I don't want.
He wants to
keep it like super real.
He wants to deal with the humans. He wants to deal with the humans.
He wants to do stuff that's like easier to do. And I'm just like, Killer Croc is. I mean, he's a mutant. He's a mutated, crocodile man. And I'm just like, I would be interested to see how Matt Reeves would do that and still do it in like a grounded, close to reality way. Because everything that happened in this movie, for the most part, I'm like, could happen in real life, And for better or for worse, like that's what you get with grounded movies. I still think this movie had some comic book wackiness and silliness. Like we didn't get, like everyone's saying it plays it too serious and it plays it too straight and it's not fun at all. And I'm like, I don't think we watched the same movie because there's still there's still goofy comic book stuff in here. Like this. I don't know what y'all talking about. Killer Croc, I'd be very interested to see if they do it, how they do it, because like I am unable to think of a way to make it work. But again, Matt Reeves got the keys, and I trust him with it. If he say he's doing Killer Croc, I'm gonna be like, all right, we're gonna get a fire Killer Croc. However he's gonna do it, it's gonna be crazy. So yeah, I'm interested to see what he does next with the villains.
But other than that, that's pretty much that's all I had to say on the movie. Fantastic.
Ooh, I got a question for you. I have a question for you regarding the Riddler. So long story short, and I'll get back to it. Do you think he knows his identity? Because I do like the scene in the prison when he goes to visit him, where it draws that tension of him just saying Bruce Wayne and Bruce looking at the camera. And you're just like, oh man, like he's talking to Bruce. And then he's like, Bruce Wayne's the only one we didn't get. Part of me is like, oh, he doesn't know. And the other part of me is like, he knows the game is more fun this way. And so he's kind of playing along too. He's like, I know who you are. Like, I know you're Bruce Wayne, but I'm not going to spoil it now. Like, I'm not going to give up your identity. I'm not going to do this. Like, I'm going to get you my, if he wants to kill Bruce, like, I want to get you my own way.
Because the thing is, he said they were like, we're a team. Like, we're a team, yeah. Bruce. So I'm like, okay, he's not going to rat him out. But at the same time, though.
But see, we're a team.
The recording, it was recording.
Yeah, that's like, I think like he knew that too. So maybe he does know his identity, but he pulled it back to save his identity. Like it tricked you, man. Like the movie does a good job of like making you feel a part of the mystery and making you feel that same tension. Like you're figuring out stuff along with them. And then when these reveals happen, like the twists and the turns, like I feel them too. You know what I mean? Like I don't like when people call a movie Fincher-like or Zodiac-like. Like I as a big fan of Fincher, I kind of hate when people do that anytime a movie is serious with its mystery. But like I will give it a pass here because it gave me that sense of I was more than just like watching, like I was along for the mystery and the journey, and like the twists and turns actually impacted and affected me. But in that moment specifically, like I've been thinking about it nonstop. I'd just be like, does the Riddler really know his identity? Or like, was that just one big trick for all of us? Like, what is the truth? Does he know it? Does he not know it? I kind of want to hear what other people have to think about that too. Like, if what's the consensus on, does he know his identity or not? And I think that's another interesting thing to just wonder, like, that's a good thing for him to have in the back of his mind and for us to have, like, one of your biggest foes knows your identity. He could tell that to some of the other villains, like the Joker saying they're friends, like he could tell it to him. He could do all sorts of like crazy stuff that to just blow the whole world up, essentially.
Like exactly. Like,
so that'll be interesting.
One thing I will say though is, what was I gonna say? I can't even remember what I was gonna say. Like I mentioned the attention to detail.
while you think another thing I thought was funny, like how we were talking about like how it takes a lot from year one and year two, and even like when you're saying like No Man's Land, I like how they did just the insane year zero reference of having the Riddler blow up the walls and flood Gotham like he literally did in that comic. Like same exact thing, same villain, same kind of structure. The Riddler put a bunch of bombs on the walls and just the levees, I'm forgetting the words, and just blew it up and flooded Gotham. When I saw that, I was like, oh, you mean exactly what the Riddler did in Batman Year Zero? So I thought that was like a super funny, like very straightforward like reference to that. Like it's like, yeah, he's gonna do the exact same thing. Here you go.
Like just watching everything that just watching the movie and to be like, oh, that happened in the comics. Oh, that happened in the comics. It was just really cool to see, just taking bits and like bits and pieces of what you said, like year one, Long Halloween, and stuff like that. So I really like that. I will say though, Harvey Dent probably be movie 3?
I think we can get there because the other DA just died. He could even be in movie 2, but we don't have to see him become Two-Face. So like he could appear here and there in the sequel, and we can have like a slower build up to him becoming Two-Face. Because again, I think The Dark Knight did a great job getting that quick turn on him, but I wouldn't mind seeing him take over and like learning the ropes as being the DA and just kind of work that movie in. He doesn't have to have more than like 5 minutes of screen time. Just like go ahead and put him in here and introduce him in the universe. And then in year 3, you've got to
let him know who he is.
Yeah, and then we can get to the Two-Face stuff. So I would be shocked if they didn't introduce him with, the other DA got his head blew up. Like there's an opening in the DA position if someone wants it. So like I would be surprised if we don't hear him or at least mention him. Like if they just mention like, oh yeah, the new DA Harvey Dent, but we don't see him. Like I would like to know something about him in the second movie, because again, there's such an easy way to bring him in now with the former DA having his brain still in that church.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like it's just gonna be interesting to see. I wonder if we get anything at Fandom. I'm not sure.
This year?
I hope like maybe something.
Yeah, I guess it's in 6 months. Yeah, it's in the 6 months, so we may not get like a teaser, but I wouldn't be surprised like Matt Reeves comes on with some kind of information. Like if Matt Reeves like appears at Fandom and just says like, we're about to start production on this, and like maybe announce the cast. And like we've recently casted, John Bernthal as Harvey Dent, right? Like it just I could see us getting something. He could announce like the title or announce what they're looking to do. So I'd be shocked if we got absolutely nothing at Fandom. This is a big year for these. They have a real chance to like take a lot of big swings and drop some stuff like that and really keep the needle pushing, especially with the other movies coming out. So I'd be surprised if they don't tell us anything.
But other than that, that's really all I got for the Batman. Fantastic. 10 out of 10 movie to me. In terms of just a comment from a comic book film standpoint, it's really everything you want. No pulling. Matt Reeves didn't pull no punches with the universe, of course. Love the acting in it. Just overall, just a perfect. I'll say a dang near perfect comic book film.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
No, I agree. Like I got the same sentiment. It's perfect. I love the way that Matt Reeves built this, and it's interesting that we didn't like. There's so much water that he didn't tread because he's like, you guys already kind of know this kind of stuff. This kind of stuff is established, already built into the world. See the world building that I'm going to do now. Like I don't need to shape the entire world based off of stuff that because you already know it. So like I did appreciate that we kind of cut to the chase on some of the stuff. Like how this works. How this is. Let me just flesh out the world rather than build up these aspects that should already be there in like a logical sense.
Yeah.
He did a fantastic job of that. I'm excited to see what he does next with this franchise with these characters.
Well, that is it from me and Chris with the Batman review. If there's anything else that y'all want us to review, you can always just drop some in the comments. You can hit us up on Twitter. You can hit us up in the Posse Discord on what y'all want us to review. But other than that, that is it from us. Y'all Y'all be easy and stay problematic.